The stars looked different from the bridge of the olive branch. Commander Sarah Chen pressed her hand against the cool metal wall and watched the alien space station grow larger on the main screen. After 20 years of human space travel, this was the moment everyone had dreamed of. First contact with a real galactic empire. Sarah was 43 years old and had spent half her life preparing for this day. She spoke 12 languages, held degrees in psychology and cultural studies, and had negotiated peace treaties between Mars colonies and Earth corporations. The Global Defense Council had chosen her personally to represent all of humanity. "Commander, we're getting another signal from the Corvin station," said Lieutenant Tom Bradley from his position at the communications console. His voice carried excitement mixed with nervousness. The entire crew of 15 had trained for 5 years for this mission. Sarah nodded and smoothed her dark blue diplomatic uniform. The outfit had been specially designed to look professional but not threatening. Everything about their ship and crew had been carefully planned to make the best first impression. "Put it on the main screen, Tom." The image that appeared made several crew members step backward. The alien was massive, nearly 8 feet tall, with thick gray skin and sharp teeth visible even when its mouth was closed. Its eyes were yellow and seemed to glow in the dim light of its ship. But despite its frightening appearance, the creature spoke in perfect English. "Human vessel Olive Branch. I am Captain Vextar of the Corvin Imperial Fleet. You are cleared to dock at Bay 7. Emperor Thakron himself wishes to meet with your diplomatic party." Sarah felt her heart racing but kept her voice steady. "Thank you, Captain Vextar. We are honored by the Emperor's attention and look forward to peaceful discussions between our peoples." The alien's expression was impossible to read. "Indeed, peace is an interesting concept. Dock quickly. The Emperor does not like to wait." As the communication ended, Sarah turned to her team. Dr. James Murphy, her cultural advisor, was taking notes on a tablet. Security Chief Lisa Wong checked her sidearm, though Sarah hoped they would never need weapons. Translator Maria Santos reviewed her language programs one more time. "Remember, everyone," Sarah said, "we're not just representing Earth today. We're representing the entire human species. Everything we do here will determine how billions of humans live in the future." The olive branch docked with a soft thud that echoed through the ship's hull. Sarah had seen pictures of the Corvin station during their approach, but walking through the docking tube still took her breath away. The station was enormous, easily the size of a small moon. Lights flickered across its surface like a metal city floating in space. The first thing Sarah noticed when they entered Corvin territory was the smell. The air was thick and warm with a metallic scent that made her nose itch. The gravity was heavier than Earth normal, making each step feel like she was carrying extra weight. Captain Vextar waited for them in the docking bay. Up close, he was even more intimidating. His hands ended in claws that could easily tear through human flesh. But he bowed slightly when he saw Sarah, which she took as a good sign. "Welcome to Corvin Prime Station. Commander Chen, the Emperor is eager to begin negotiations." As they walked through the station's corridors, Sarah tried to take in everything around her. The walls were covered in what looked like battle scenes, showing Corvin warriors defeating various alien species. The lighting was dim by human standards, casting long shadows everywhere. Other Corvins stopped to stare at the human delegation as they passed. Some showed their teeth in what might have been smiles, though Sarah couldn't be sure. Children, or what she assumed were children based on their smaller size, pointed and whispered behind their parents. "Your station is magnificent," Sarah said to Captain Vextar as they walked. "How long did it take to build?" "This station has stood for 300 of your years," the captain replied. "It has served as the center of Corvin power since we united the local star systems under our rule." Dr. Murphy leaned closer to Sarah and whispered, "Notice he said united under our rule, not joined our alliance. They definitely see themselves as conquerors rather than partners." Sarah nodded slightly but kept smiling. She had expected this. Most successful galactic empires probably started as military powers. The key was showing them that humans could be valuable partners rather than threats or victims. They entered a massive chamber with a ceiling that seemed to stretch up into darkness. At the far end sat a throne made of what looked like black metal and bones from various creatures. Emperor Thakron was even larger than Captain Vextar, with scars across his face and arms that told stories of past battles. "So," the Emperor said in a voice like grinding stone, "these are the humans we have heard so much about." Sarah stepped forward and bowed respectfully. Your Imperial Majesty, I am Commander Sarah Chen, representing Earth and all human colonies. We come seeking friendship and mutual benefit between our peoples. Emperor Thakran leaned forward on his throne. Friendship. An interesting word choice. Tell me, Commander Chen, how many worlds does your species control? We have established colonies on 17 planets and moons, Your Majesty, with more planned as our population grows. 17, the Emperor repeated slowly. The Corvan Empire controls 40,000 star systems. We have conquered and absorbed dozens of species over the past millennium. What exactly do you think you can offer us? Sarah had prepared for this question. Your Majesty, humans may be new to galactic society, but we bring fresh perspectives and technologies. Our scientists have developed unique approaches to energy generation, artificial intelligence, and space travel. We also have experience in diplomacy and peaceful conflict resolution that might be valuable to an empire managing so many different worlds and species. The Emperor's yellow eyes seemed to study her for a long moment. Then surprisingly he began to laugh. It was not a pleasant sound. You speak of peace and diplomacy as if they are strengths, he said. In the galaxy, Commander Chen, only power matters. The strong rule, the weak serve or die. This is the natural order. Sarah felt her team tense behind her, but she maintained her calm expression. With respect, Your Majesty, humans have learned that cooperation often achieves better results than conflict. We've built a peaceful society across multiple worlds through negotiation and mutual understanding. Peaceful, the Emperor repeated. Yes, we have observed your colonies. No wars, no conquest, no expansion through strength. Tell me, what happens when your peaceful worlds face an enemy who does not care about your diplomacy? We hope that by demonstrating the benefits of cooperation, we can avoid making such enemies, Sarah replied. For the next several hours, Sarah and her team presented their proposals for trade agreements, technology sharing, and cultural exchange. The Corvans asked detailed questions about human military capabilities, population numbers, and resource production. Sarah answered honestly, believing that transparency would build trust. As the day continued, the negotiations seemed to go better than expected. Emperor Thakran appeared genuinely interested in human manufacturing techniques and asked several questions about Earth's governmental system. He even agreed to a preliminary trade arrangement that would allow human merchants to visit certain Corvan worlds. This has been most educational, the Emperor said as the formal session ended. We will consider your proposals carefully. Tomorrow we will hold a ceremony to sign this preliminary agreement. It will be broadcast across Corvan space so all our subjects can witness this historic moment. Sarah felt a surge of excitement. They had done it. Humanity's first step into galactic society would be a peaceful one, built on mutual respect and cooperation. We are honored by your consideration, Your Majesty, she said. My team and I look forward to tomorrow's ceremony. As the humans were escorted to their guest quarters, Sarah allowed herself to feel hopeful. The Corvans seemed brutal by human standards, but they were also intelligent and practical. If humanity could prove their value as partners rather than threats, there was no reason they couldn't coexist peacefully in the galaxy. She had no way of knowing that Emperor Thakran viewed her diplomatic approach not as strength, but as evidence of weakness that would seal humanity's fate. Sarah woke up early on the morning of the ceremony. Through the window of her guest quarters, she could see ships arriving from across Corvan space. The ceremony would be broadcast to billions of beings throughout the Empire. It would also be transmitted back to Earth, where people would stay up late to watch humanity officially join galactic society. She put on her best diplomatic uniform and checked her appearance in the mirror. Today would change everything for the human race. After breakfast, she gathered her team in the common area of their quarters. Today is the most important day in human history, she told them. Everyone back home is counting on us to represent our species with dignity and strength. Dr. Murphy adjusted his tie nervously. The Corvan ceremonies we studied all seemed to focus on demonstrations of power. Do you think we should be worried about anything? Sarah shook her head. Emperor Thakran specifically called this a signing ceremony. If he wanted to harm us, he wouldn't have gone through all these negotiations first. Captain Vextar arrived to escort them to the ceremony hall at exactly the scheduled time. The Corvan officer seemed different today, more formal and distant than he had been during the previous day's meetings. The Emperor awaits, he said simply. then turned and walked away without his usual attempts at conversation. The ceremony hall was enormous, with thousands of Corvan citizens filling tiered seating that rose up into the shadows above. Cameras floated throughout the space, recording everything from multiple angles. At the center of the room was a raised platform with two tables, one clearly designed for humans, the other for Corvans. Emperor Thakron stood beside his throne, wearing elaborate ceremonial armor covered in symbols that probably represented his conquests. His personal guards flanked him, each carrying weapons that Sarah didn't recognize but that looked extremely dangerous. "Commander Chen," the Emperor called out as she approached the platform, "are you prepared to make history today?" "Yes, Your Majesty," Sarah replied, taking her position at the human table. "We're honored to be part of this moment." The ceremony began with a long speech by the Emperor in the Corvan language. Maria Santos whispered translations to Sarah, explaining that he was describing the glorious history of Corvan expansion and the benefits of joining their empire. Then the Emperor switched to English and addressed the cameras directly. "Citizens of the Corvan Empire, today we witness the addition of a new species to our great civilization. The humans have come to us seeking membership in galactic society." Sarah felt a moment of unease. The Emperor's words made it sound like humans were asking to be conquered, rather than negotiating a partnership. But she maintained her diplomatic smile and waited for her turn to speak. "However," the Emperor continued, his voice growing louder, "we must first determine if these humans are worthy of joining our empire." Sarah's stomach dropped. This wasn't part of the agreed ceremony. She glanced at Dr. Murphy, who looked equally confused. Emperor Thakron stepped closer to the human delegation. "In Corvan society, we believe that strength is the only true virtue. The weak exist only to serve the strong. This is the natural order of the universe." "Your Majesty," Sarah said carefully, "perhaps we should discuss any changes to our agreement privately before continuing the ceremony." The Emperor's yellow eyes fixed on her. "There has been no change, Commander Chen. This has always been the true purpose of our meeting." Suddenly, Sarah understood. The negotiations, the trade agreements, the promises of partnership, it had all been a lie. A trap designed to get human representatives within reach of Corvan claws. "You see," the Emperor announced to the cameras, "these humans believe that words and diplomacy make them strong. They think that peaceful negotiation is a virtue rather than a weakness." Sarah felt her team moving closer together behind her. Security Chief Wong's hand moved toward her weapon, but Sarah caught her eye and shook her head slightly. They were outnumbered by thousands with no way to escape. "Your Majesty," Sarah said, trying to keep her voice steady, "if you've decided against our agreement, we'll simply return to our ship and leave your space. There's no need for any conflict." Emperor Thakron laughed, the same unpleasant sound she had heard the day before. "Leave? Commander Chen, you misunderstand your situation completely." The Emperor drew a pair of ceremonial weapons from his belt. They looked like curved blades, but energy crackled along their edges. Plasma claws, Sarah realized. The traditional weapons of Corvan nobles. "These humans," the Emperor called out to his audience and the cameras, "represent a species that has forgotten the most basic truth of existence. In nature, the predator kills the prey. The strong dominate the weak. There is no negotiation between the hunter and the hunted." Sarah felt terror rising in her chest, but she forced herself to remain calm. "Your Majesty, we came here in peace with hope for our people's futures. Surely there's no honor in killing unarmed diplomats." "Honor?" the Emperor snarled. "You speak of honor while showing no strength whatsoever. You came to my domain defenseless, trusting in words instead of weapons. You represent a species too weak to deserve existence." He raised the plasma claws above his head. "Let this be a message to the galaxy. This is what happens to those who believe diplomacy can replace power." The Emperor moved faster than Sarah thought possible. The plasma claws sliced through her chest before she could even think to dodge. The pain was incredible, but it only lasted a moment before everything went black. Dr. Murphy tried to run but made it only 3 steps before a claw took his head clean off. Security Chief Wong managed to draw her weapon and fire 2 shots that bounced harmlessly off the Emperor's armor, before she too fell to the ceremonial blades. Maria Santos was the last to die. She was pressed against the human table, crying and begging in perfect Corvan for mercy. The Emperor killed her slowly, making sure the cameras caught every moment. The entire massacre took less than 2 minutes. When it was over, Emperor Thakron stood among the bodies and addressed the cameras again. The human species has proven itself unworthy of existence in our galaxy. They are weak, defenseless, and too foolish to understand that only strength matters. He gestured to the bloody platform. I give them 30 standard days to surrender all their colonies and submit to Corvan rule. If they refuse, we will hunt down every human in the galaxy and eliminate their pathetic species forever. The Emperor's broadcast reached Earth 18 hours later. Due to the vast distance between Corvan space and human territory, the Global Defense Council was in emergency session when the transmission arrived. President Elena Vasquez watched the footage of Sarah Chen's murder 3 times before she could speak. Around the table, the faces of Earth's leaders showed a mixture of horror, grief, and something else. Something cold and dangerous. 30 days, said General Harrison, the head of Earth's military forces. They're giving us 30 days to surrender. They killed Sarah, whispered Dr. Rebecca Torres, the head of the science division. She was the best of us. She believed in peace. President Vasquez stood up slowly. General Harrison, I want you to activate Protocol Ragnarok immediately. Several people around the table looked confused. Protocol Ragnarok was classified so highly that only 5 people on Earth knew it existed. Madam President, said Secretary of State Williams, perhaps we should attempt to contact other galactic species first. Surely someone will condemn this unprovoked attack on our diplomatic mission. No, the President said quietly. No more diplomacy. No more hoping that aliens will be reasonable. Sarah Chen died believing in the goodness of other species. I will not dishonor her memory by making the same mistake. General Harrison was already on his secure communicator, speaking to someone at Titan Research Facility. As he talked, his expression grew more serious. Dr. Webb confirms all Ragnarok assets are ready for deployment, he reported. The Nemesis fleet can launch within 72 hours. The quantum weapons are fully charged. The reality manipulation engines are online. President Vasquez looked around the table at her advisors. Ladies and gentlemen, for the past 20 years we've been preparing for this exact scenario. We hoped it would never come, but we knew that someday we might encounter a species that only understood strength. She activated the global communication system that would reach every human colony simultaneously. Citizens of Earth and all human worlds, she began. Today our diplomatic mission to the Corvan Empire was brutally murdered while under a flag of truce. The aliens responsible have demanded our surrender within 30 days. She paused, looking directly into the camera. Our response will not be surrender. Our response will not be negotiation. Our response will be the complete and total destruction of the Corvan Empire. The communication ended and Earth went silent. No more diplomatic messages were sent to Corvan space. No replies came to alien ultimatums. The Corvans interpreted this silence as fear, proof that their demonstration had worked. They were wrong. The silence meant that humanity was no longer interested in talking. The time for words was over. Now came the vengeance. 18 days had passed since Emperor Thakron's ultimatum. The Corvan Empire waited for humanity's surrender, confident that the brutal display had achieved its purpose. Other galactic species watched nervously, some expressing quiet sympathy for the humans while others remained silent. Captain Mexstar of the Corvan patrol fleet Crimson Fang was not worried about the humans. His squadron of 12 warships was patrolling near Proxima Centauri, the closest human system to Corvan space. If the weak mammals tried anything foolish, his fleet would destroy them easily. Any word from the human colonies? He asked his communications officer. Nothing, Captain. They maintain complete radio silence. Our intelligence suggests they are preparing to surrender their outer worlds first. Captain Mexstar nodded with satisfaction. As expected, fear has made them see reason. That was when the sensors started screaming. Captain, shouted the sensor operator. I'm detecting massive energy readings directly ahead. Something huge just appeared out of nowhere. On the main screen, space itself seemed to tear open like fabric being ripped apart. Through the wound in reality stepped something that should not have been possible. The human ship was enormous, larger than a Corvan battle station, black as space itself and covered in weapons that hurt to look at directly. By the Empire, whispered someone on the bridge. What is that thing? Captain Mexstar stared in shock. The human vessel was easily 50 times the size of his flagship. Its hull seemed to absorb light instead of reflecting it, making it appear like a hole in space shaped like a ship. All ships battle formation, he ordered. Prepare to engage the human vessel. The 12 Corvan warships spread out and powered up their weapons. Their plasma cannons had destroyed hundreds of enemy ships over the years. Their shields could withstand anything the humans might have built. The human ship responded with a single, brief transmission. Commander Sarah Chen came in peace. Then it fired. The weapon wasn't visible. There was no beam of light, no projectile, no explosion. The Corvan ships simply stopped existing. One moment they were there, 12 proud warships of the Empire. The next moment there was only empty space and scattered atoms. Captain Mexstar had just enough time to realize he was about to die before his molecules forgot how to stick together. The human ship, the TFS Retribution, hung motionless in space for several minutes after the brief battle. Then it turned toward the heart of Corvan space and began moving at speeds that broke several laws of physics. Admiral Jackson Rivera stood on the Retribution's bridge, watching the tactical displays that showed the location of every Corvan military installation within 500 light years. At 55 years old, he had spent his entire career preparing for this moment. "Admiral," reported his tactical officer, "the Proxima patrol fleet has been eliminated. No survivors, no wreckage. Complete molecular dissolution." "Good," Rivera said quietly. "Send the message to all Corvan forces in this sector." The transmission that went out to every Corvan ship and station in local space was simple. Footage of Sarah Chen's murder, followed by coordinates of the destroyed patrol fleet. "Ma'am," said Commander Sarah Kim from the communication station, "we're receiving panic signals from Corvan installations throughout the region. They're requesting emergency reinforcements." Admiral Rivera smiled grimly. "Let them call for help. I want the entire Corvan fleet to know we're coming." The Retribution was not alone. Behind it, space continued to tear open as more human warships emerged from dimensional folds. The Nemesis fleet had been humanity's most classified project, ships designed specifically for the extermination of hostile alien species. Each vessel was a nightmare of human engineering. The TFS Vengeance could crack planets with its quantum bore cannons. The TFS Fury carried enough antimatter to sterilize entire solar systems. The TFS Wrath mounted weapons that attacked enemy mines directly, driving crews insane before destroying their ships. But the most terrifying ship in the fleet was the TFS Sarah Chen. It was smaller than the others, carrying no weapons at all. Instead, it held the most dangerous cargo humanity had ever created, a virus specifically engineered to target Corvan DNA. Dr. Marcus Webb watched from the research vessel TFS Hippocrates as his creations prepared for their first real test. For 20 years, ever since first contact protocols had been established, he had been developing weapons for this exact scenario. "The biological agent is ready for deployment," he reported to Admiral Rivera. "Once released, it will spread through Corvan populations within weeks. Their immune systems have no defense against it. And the quantum weapons? Operating at full capacity. We can disrupt matter at the subatomic level across entire star systems. Their shields won't even slow us down." Admiral Rivera nodded. The Corvans had made one fatal mistake when they murdered Sarah Chen. They had assumed that humanity was weak, because they preferred diplomacy to warfare. They had no idea that humans had been preparing for galactic war since the day they first looked at the stars. "Begin the advance," he ordered. "Target every Corvan military installation, every government facility, every population center over 1 million individuals. Leave nothing that can threaten human space in the future." The Nemesis fleet spread out across dozens of star systems, moving faster than Corvan ships could track. They struck without warning, appearing inside enemy formations and destroying entire fleets before vanishing again. At the Corvan military base of Kex Prime, Admiral Vorth watched his defenses dissolve like paper in acid. The humans had somehow infiltrated his computer systems and turned his own weapons against his ships. "How are they doing this?" he demanded of his technical staff. "Our security systems were designed by the best minds in the Empire." "Sir," replied his chief technician, his voice shaking, "I think they've been inside our networks for years. They know everything about our technology, our defensive strategies, even our personal communications." Admiral Vorth felt ice forming in his stomach. "Are you telling me the humans have been spying on us since first contact?" "Sir, I think they've been spying on us since before first contact. These systems show signs of infiltration going back decades. On the planet below, Corvan civilians looked up in terror as human ships appeared in their skies. They had expected the humans to beg for mercy, to surrender their colonies without a fight. Instead, they faced weapons that turned their cities to glass and their atmosphere to poison. The TFS Sarah Chen released its biological payload over 17 Corvan worlds simultaneously. The virus spread quickly through the population, attacking their genetic structure at the cellular level. It was designed to be painless but absolutely fatal. Within days, entire planets fell silent. Emperor Thakron received the reports in his throne room, each message worse than the last. His mighty empire, built over 1,000 years of conquest, was falling apart in weeks. "How many fleets have we lost?" he asked his military advisor. "All of them, Your Imperial Majesty. Every ship we send to engage the humans is destroyed without causing any damage to their forces." The Emperor's claws scraped against his throne. "What about our other subject species? Surely they will join the fight against this human threat." "Sire," the advisor said carefully, "the other species are distancing themselves from the Empire. The Zalani Federation has closed their borders to our ships. The Quantum Collective is refusing to answer our communications." Emperor Thakron roared in fury. "Cowards! When the humans come for them next, they'll wish they had stood with the Empire." But the humans showed no interest in attacking other species. Their war was with the Corvans alone, and they prosecuted it with terrifying efficiency. Every Corvan colony, every Corvan ship, every Corvan life was marked for elimination. The galaxy watched in horrified fascination as humanity demonstrated capabilities that rewrote the rules of warfare. They had hidden their true strength behind diplomatic smiles and peaceful intentions. Now that facade was gone, revealing apex predators who had been preparing for interstellar war since before they achieved faster-than-light travel. Within 6 months, the Corvan Empire had lost 60% of its territory. The remaining Corvan forces were scattered, demoralized, and hopelessly outmatched. Emperor Thakron sent desperate messages offering surrender, but the humans never replied. They had moved beyond communication. This was not a war for territory or resources. This was extermination, carried out with the methodical precision that only humans could achieve. The galaxy began to understand that they had witnessed the birth of something new and terrible. Humanity was not just another species seeking its place among the stars. They were the apex predators of the cosmos, and they had just announced their presence with the blood of an empire. Emperor Thakron cowered in the deepest bunker beneath his capital world, surrounded by the last remnants of his once mighty empire. Above ground, human ships hung in the sky like dark angels waiting for him to emerge. 6 months of war had reduced the Corvan Empire from 40,000 star systems to less than 50, and those few remaining worlds lived in constant terror. The Emperor's hand shook as he composed another surrender message. It was his 20th attempt in the past week, each one more desperate than the last. "Humans of Earth," he began, his voice cracking with fear. "I, Emperor Thakron of the Corvan Empire, formally surrender all claims to territory and power. We submit to whatever terms you demand. Please show mercy to the surviving members of my species." He sent the message knowing it would receive the same response as all the others. Silence, followed by more of his worlds going dark. The humans weren't interested in surrender. They had moved beyond conquest into something far more terrifying. Systematic extermination carried out with industrial efficiency. High above the Emperor's bunker, Admiral Rivera stood on the bridge of the Retribution, reviewing the day's battle reports. The Corvan military had effectively ceased to exist. What remained were scattered civilian populations hiding in underground shelters, waiting for the inevitable. "Admiral," reported Commander Kim, "we've received another surrender offer from Emperor Thakron. Same content as the previous 19. Rivera didn't even look up from his tactical display. "Standard response, Commander." The reply that went back to the cowering Emperor was the same as always, a recording of Sarah Chen's final words before her murder. "We came in peace with hope for all our species' futures." Rivera had no interest in accepting surrender. The Corvans had made their choice when they murdered an unarmed diplomat under a flag of truce. Now they would face the consequences of that choice. But the war had attracted attention from across the galaxy. Other major powers were beginning to realize that humanity's capabilities threatened the existing galactic order. The first to act was the Zalani Federation. an alliance of species known for their defensive technologies. Supreme Chancellor Vetix of the Zilani called an emergency session of their ruling council. "The human threat must be contained," she declared to the assembled representatives. "If they can destroy the Corvan Empire so easily, no species in the galaxy is safe." The Zilani had remained neutral during humanity's war against the Corvans, believing their powerful defensive barriers would protect them from any threat. Their worlds were surrounded by energy shields that had never been breached in 3,000 years of galactic warfare. "We will establish a protective cordon around human space," Chancellor Vetix announced. "Our barrier fleets will contain them while we negotiate with other species to form a united response." The Zilani barrier fleet consisted of 50 massive ships, each one capable of generating defensive fields strong enough to stop entire star systems from being invaded. They had never lost a single engagement. In their long military history, they lasted exactly 17 minutes against human forces. The TFS Wrath appeared in the middle of the Zilani formation and activated its psychological warfare systems. The alien crews began screaming as their minds were flooded with images of their own deaths, shown in excruciating detail. Half the fleet destroyed itself in panic. The other half was systematically eliminated by quantum weapons that simply deleted their ships from existence. Chancellor Vetix watched the destruction from her command center on Zilani Prime, her confidence turning to horror as her invincible fleet was annihilated. "How?" she whispered. "Our shields have protected us for millennia." The human response came 12 hours later. It wasn't a message or a threat. It was a demonstration. The barrier field around Zilani Prime, the most powerful defensive system ever created, simply turned off. Not destroyed, not overloaded, turned off, as if the humans had reached out and flipped a switch. Then came the message, broadcast across all Zilani communication networks. "You were silent when our diplomat was murdered. Your silence was complicity. You have 1 hour to evacuate your population centers." The Zilani evacuation was chaotic and incomplete. When the hour ended, human ships appeared in the skies above every major Zilani city and began a precise, methodical bombardment that left government and military installations as smoking craters while carefully avoiding civilian areas. The message was clear. The humans could have killed everyone, but they chose restraint. This time, news of the Zilani defeat spread across the galaxy like wildfire. If humanity could neutralize the galaxy's strongest defensive system so easily, what hope did any other species have? The Quantum Collective, an alliance of energy beings who existed partially outside normal spacetime, attempted their own intervention. They considered themselves beyond the reach of physical weapons, able to phase in and out of reality at will. The human response was swift and brutal. The TFS Vengeance deployed weapons that attacked the quantum realm directly, dragging the energy beings into normal space where they could be destroyed by conventional means. Entire collective fleets found themselves trapped in physical form and helpless against human firepower. "Impossible," transmitted the collective's prime. Consciousness as its forces were systematically eliminated. No species should possess technology capable of manipulating quantum states on this scale. The human reply came from Dr. Webb aboard the Hippocrates. "We've been studying quantum mechanics since before we left our home planet. Did you really think we wouldn't weaponize it?" Each defeat of a galactic power sent shockwaves through the remaining species. The humans weren't just militarily superior. They possessed technology that seemed to violate the known laws of physics. Worse, they had apparently been developing these capabilities for decades while maintaining the facade of a peaceful, diplomatic species. Ambassador Kell of the Traitors Consortium, one of the galaxy's oldest political organizations, sent an urgent message to all member species. "The humans have revealed themselves as the greatest threat our galaxy has ever faced. They possess capabilities beyond our understanding and have demonstrated complete ruthlessness in their application. We must unite against this menace or face extinction individually." The response from the human fleet was delivered personally by Admiral Rivera, who appeared at the consortium's emergency meeting via hologram without being invited. "Gentlemen," he said calmly to the assembled alien ambassadors, "you seem to be under the impression that you have some choice in this matter." Ambassador Kell tried to maintain his diplomatic composure. "Admiral Rivera, surely we can reach some accommodation. The consortium has maintained galactic peace for over 5,000 years. We can mediate between humanity and the Corvan Empire." Rivera's expression didn't change. The Corvan Empire will cease to exist within the month. Every Corvan world will be cleansed, every Corvan ship destroyed, every member of their species eliminated from the galaxy. This is not negotiable. But Admiral, pressed another ambassador, such complete genocide goes against all principles of galactic civilization. Surely some mercy. Mercy? Rivera interrupted, his voice growing cold. Your species watched our diplomat be butchered for entertainment and said nothing. You could have condemned the Emperor's actions, imposed sanctions, demanded justice. Instead, you remained silent and waited to see if we would submit to Corvan rule. The Admiral leaned forward in his chair. Sarah Chen believed that the galaxy was full of reasonable beings who would stand against unprovoked aggression. She died believing in the inherent goodness of alien species. You proved her wrong. The hologram flickered as Rivera prepared to end the transmission. From now on, the galaxy operates under human law. Any species that threatens human citizens or interests will face complete destruction. Any species that harbors or assists our enemies will share their fate. You are free to govern your own worlds as you see fit, but you will do so under our protection and according to our rules. The transmission ended, leaving the alien ambassadors in stunned silence. Back on the Emperor's world, Thakron received word that the last Corvan fleet had been destroyed while attempting to evacuate civilians to neutral space. There were no longer any Corvan military forces left in the galaxy, only scattered populations of survivors hiding on a handful of worlds, waiting for the humans to find them. The Emperor's communication console chimed with an incoming message. For a moment, hope flared in his chest. Perhaps the humans had finally agreed to negotiate. Instead, he found himself looking at Admiral Rivera's stern face. Emperor Thakron, the human said formally, you are hereby summoned to surrender yourself for trial and execution. You will present yourself at the coordinates I am transmitting within 24 hours. The Emperor's legs gave out and he collapsed into his throne. Please, he begged, I surrender completely. Take our worlds, enslave our people, do whatever you wish. Just let me live. Admiral Rivera's expression showed no mercy. You had your chance to live when you chose to murder our diplomat instead of conducting honorable negotiations. Your execution will be broadcast across the galaxy as a warning to any other species that might consider harming human representatives. The transmission ended, leaving Emperor Thakron alone with the knowledge of his approaching death. Outside his bunker, human ships waited patiently for his surrender. Ready 1 year had passed since Sarah Chen's murder, and the galaxy was forever changed. Emperor Thakron was dead, executed in the same manner he had killed the human diplomat. His death broadcast to every world in known space as a final warning. The Corvan Empire no longer existed. Every Corvan world was now under human control, their species extinct, wiped from the galaxy with methodical thoroughness. Admiral Rivera stood in the command center that had once been Emperor Thakron's throne room, watching displays that showed the current state of galactic civilization. 30% of known space now flew human flags. The remaining 70% lived under the protection of human law, whether they wanted it or not. Admiral, reported Commander Kim, the Galactic Council is ready to convene. All major species have sent representatives. Rivera nodded and adjusted his dress uniform. Today marked the official establishment of the new galactic order, with humanity as its undisputed leaders. The transformation from desperate refugees to galactic hegemons had taken less than 12 months. The council chamber was packed with representatives from hundreds of species, all of them careful to show proper respect to their human overlords. The Zilani Chancellor sat beside former Quantum Collective leaders, both groups still reeling from their defeats at human hands. Dozens of smaller species that had never heard of Earth a year ago now sent tribute ships regularly to human space. Rivera took his place at the head of the chamber, where Emperor Thakron's throne had once stood. In its place was a simple podium bearing the seal of the Terran hegemony, humanity's new interstellar government. Ladies, gentlemen, and beings of all classifications, he began, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber's translation systems. 1 year ago, the species in this room watched as our diplomatic representative was brutally murdered under a flag of truce. You remained silent. You did nothing. The alien representatives shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Everyone remembered the footage of Sarah Chen's death, and everyone remembered their government's failure to condemn it. Today we establish a new order based on a simple principle, Rivera continued. Never again will any diplomat of any species face death for seeking peace. The penalty for harming an official representative under diplomatic protection is the complete extinction of the offending species. Ambassador Kell of the Traitors Consortium raised his hand hesitantly. Admiral, surely such harsh punishment could be applied more selectively. Perhaps sanctions or... The Corvan Empire numbered in the billions, Rivera interrupted. They controlled 40,000 star systems and commanded fleets that had conquered dozens of other species. Where are they now, Ambassador Kell? The alien representative said nothing. They are extinct, Rivera said simply. Every last one. Their worlds are now human colonies. Their ships are scrap metal. Their entire civilization has been erased from history because they chose to murder an unarmed woman who came to them in peace. Rivera activated a holographic display that showed the current political map of the galaxy. Human territory was marked in blue, expanding outward from Earth like a growing wave. This is the new reality, he explained. Humanity now controls the former Corvan Empire, plus additional systems we have claimed for security purposes. We are the dominant military power in the galaxy, and we will use that power to enforce one simple rule: peace through strength. Chancellor Vatix of the Zalani Federation stood up carefully. Admiral Rivera, my people accept human leadership and are grateful for your restraint during our recent conflict. However, we must ask, what are your long-term intentions for the galaxy? Rivera smiled grimly. We have no interest in conquering every world or enslaving every species, Chancellor. Humanity learned long ago that ruling unwilling populations is more trouble than it's worth. You are free to govern your worlds as you choose, practice your religions, maintain your cultures, and trade with whomever you wish. Relief was visible on many alien faces around the chamber. However, Rivera continued, you will do so under the protection of human law. Any species that threatens human citizens, attacks our allies, or attempts to develop weapons capable of threatening our forces will face immediate and total destruction. The Admiral gestured to another display showing Earth's massive orbital shipyards, now expanded to cover most of the inner solar system. We are currently producing memorial fleets, automated warships that will patrol the galaxy indefinitely. Each ship is named after Sarah Chen or one of her murdered colleagues. These vessels will ensure that no species ever again mistakes our preference for diplomacy as a sign of weakness. Dr. Rebecca Torres, now Director of Human Colonial Administration, stepped forward to address the Council. The Chen Doctrine, as we call it, is simple, she explained. Humanity will protect any species that requests our aid and respects our authority. We will provide advanced technology, medical assistance, and protection from external threats. In return, we expect complete compliance with human laws regarding diplomatic immunity and the conduct of interstellar relations. A representative from one of the smaller species raised her hand. Director Torres, what happens to species that prefer to remain neutral? Not all of us wish to be involved in galactic politics. Neutrality is acceptable, Torres replied, as long as you respect human authority when we exercise it. If another species threatens you, we will defend you. If you are threatened by one of our allies, we will mediate the dispute fairly. If you threaten others, we will stop you. The implications were clear. Humanity had appointed itself as the galaxy's police force, judge, and executioner. Ambassador Kell tried once more to assert some independence. Admiral, surely the established galactic institutions like the Traitors Consortium have some role to play in this new order? Rivera's expression hardened. The Traitors Consortium watched our diplomat be murdered and said nothing. The Galactic Senate refused to condemn the Emperor's actions. Every major institution in this galaxy proved itself morally bankrupt when it mattered most. He gestured to the human flag hanging behind the podium. From now on, there is only one authority that matters in galactic affairs: the Terran hegemony. You can maintain your local governments, your trade organizations, your cultural groups, but when humanity speaks, the galaxy listens. The council session ended with the formal signing of the Galactic Protection Treaty. Every species present agreed to recognize human authority in exchange for protection and access to human technology. Those who refused were politely informed that they would be treated as potential threats. As the alien representatives filed out of the chamber, Rivera remained behind to review reports from across human space. The transformation had been remarkable. Worlds that had been Corvan colonies were now thriving under human administration. Former enemy species were integrating into human society, bringing their knowledge and skills to benefit the hegemony. Commander Kim approached with the daily briefings. Admiral, we've received applications for human protection from 17 more species this week. Also, the automated memorial fleets report all sectors secure. No hostile activity detected anywhere in the galaxy. Rivera nodded with satisfaction. And our diplomatic missions? All proceeding smoothly, sir. Funny how respectful other species become when they know we have the firepower to crack planets. Rivera walked to the window that looked out over the former Corvan capital. Human engineers were rebuilding the city according to Earth architectural principles, creating a monument to both human victory and alien folly. Sarah believed that the galaxy was full of reasonable beings who would choose cooperation over conflict. He said quietly, she was wrong about the reasonableness, but right about the choice. He turned back to his duties, reviewing plans for the next phase of human expansion. The galaxy was finally at peace, not the peace of mutual understanding that Sarah Chen had hoped for, but the peace of absolute dominance. Memorial ships named TFS Sarah Chen, TFS James Murphy, TFS Lisa Wong, and TFS Maria Santos patrolled the space lanes, their automated systems constantly scanning for threats to galactic stability. Each ship carried the same message in its database. We came in peace with hope for all our species' futures. It was a reminder to the galaxy of what had been lost when they chose to remain silent in the face of evil. Now they lived under the protection of the species they had failed to defend, ruled by humans who had learned that in a hostile universe, only strength could guarantee peace. The age of human hegemony had begun, built on the grave of a woman who had believed in the power of words over weapons. Sarah Chen's dream of peaceful coexistence had died with her, replaced by something more practical but far less hopeful. Peace through overwhelming force. The galaxy was safer now, more stable, more prosperous under human rule, but it had lost something precious in the process, the belief that different species could coexist as equals. That dream had died in a Corvan throne room, murdered along with the diplomat who carried it. Now there was only the new reality, humanity dominant, the galaxy obedient, and peace maintained through the constant threat of complete annihilation. It was not the future Sarah Chen had envisioned, but it